On this edition of the program, are we about to go to full-scale war with Iran? Is a stock trading ban really happening? And the long-awaited Campaign Undertaker finally eulogizes the Graham Plattner for Senate campaign. All that, plus Josh Jennings and the dumbest right-wing media outrage of all time against the Odyssey. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics Podcast for Friday, July 24th, 2026. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you here in Austin, Texas. We're going to get to everything we need to get to on the Iran side. A lot of moves being made strategically that make it seem like something very big is about to happen in that country. We shall see. We shall see. Also, the House making moves as they are about to vacate D.C. for 6 weeks. The Senate strained relationships with the White House. And after we did a whole thing on Wednesday about the lead of the generic ballot getting tight for Democrats. As it turns out, if we are bombing Iran and the Strait of Hormuz is closed and the Brent oil crude price goes up, so does the lead for the generic ballot. Good news for Dems. That and Josh Jennings. I'm actually going to go see the Odyssey right after I'm done recording this, but the reviews have been good enough. I am presuming that this movie is good because of everything that I've seen, the people that have reviewed it, and I just have to say that I have some notes on the right-wing backlash to it. It's very dumb. I wanted to talk to somebody who is ensconced in the right-wing media. And Josh Jennings indeed is that. So that is all coming up. Although there is one thing we need to get to. In the demilitarized zone separating North and South Korea, there are 2 villages. On the southern side is Taesongdong, Freedom Village, a real farming community whose residents live under the strange rules of the DMZ. But less than 1 mile away, on the northern side, is Kaejongdong, which North Korea calls Peace Village. Now, from the south, Kaejongdong looks like an idyllic community. Bright buildings, clean streets, farms, and an enormous flag. It presents the picture of an orderly little paradise produced by a clockwork planned command and control economy. All that, of course, contrasts to the messiness that is South Korea. Sure, it's a prosperous democracy, but it's got problems. Punishing low birth rate, economic anxiety, and a political system so spectacularly corrupt that one of its presidents was removed from office after a scandal that somehow included a Samsung-financed horse. The message from across the border is simple. Look at us. We've got none of that mess. Look at how you could be living. Except Kaejongdong is not what it appears to be. South Korean observers looking through high-powered lenses reported that the buildings are shells. Windows that appeared to be painted on, lights switching on in a pattern that makes no sense if it were actually inhabited by real people. The village is widely believed to be vacant. A Potemkin mirage built as propaganda, once meant to tempt South Koreans to defect. And it's what sits behind that facade that matters, because it is not paradise. It is one of the most brutal states on earth. The writer Christopher Hitchens once put the human cost in especially vicious terms, pointing out that famine survivors in North Korea average 6 inches shorter than their neighbors to the south. Gyeongdong is an exciting facade hiding untold horrors. And it is with that lesson that the Campaign Undertaker is here to bury Graham Plattner for Senate in Maine. The central image of the Graham Plattner campaign was a facade, just like that North Korean village. Plattner failed the one test that actually runs our post-Trump politics, and that is authenticity. Although this time, he didn't fail it because he wouldn't give it. He failed it because he faked it. Authenticity rules, not purity and not sainthood, not whether every voter agrees with every policy. It is a very simple test. Do I believe that you are who you say you are? Graham Plattner's opening campaign ad was very, very good. Here's the Maine waterman, the combat veteran who came home carrying PTSD and slowly, in the rural wilderness of Maine, rebuilt himself by working the sea, emerging on the other side a progressive, happy warrior, a blunt, caring husband who wanted to build a family and was ready to fight for working class people because he was one of them. Man, that's idyllic. A beautifully constructed caricature. And disillusioned Democrats anxious to oust Susan Collins oh so wanted to believe it. And yet, it wasn't real. Sure, he had an oyster business, but financial disclosures suggested that it produced a very, very, very small slice of his income, and the only real customer was his mom. He said that he used grants from the government as a veteran to buy his house, but his dad pretty much lent him most of the money. He was a rich kid with a very, very settled family safety net. He wasn't a working class waterman. And it is with that foundation that the weight of every other revelation that came after it eventually made the crater even deeper. Voters knew Plattner had been to war. They knew he had PTSD. They knew he had an angry, complicated past. And for a while, Plattner's instinct seemed to be that when things came forward, he had to immediately admit he was wrong. We made jokes about it here on this show that he sounded like a golden retriever saying, "Okay, guys, well, blah, 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 blah." But even when the explanation of his Nazi tattoo was, well, a little hard to believe and eventually contradicted by multiple former partners, his immediate snapping back to it felt more like somebody that was trying to do better. And I gave him credit for that on this show. I thought maybe that's the way that he gets through a real life past, somebody who has lived a bit of his life in public. And I'm sympathetic to that. But the noise got louder. We don't have to list everything here. Aside from the Nazi tattoo and the horrifying Reddit posts, there were reports that he sent sexually explicit messages to multiple women after he was married, that he was on a fetish / possible pedophile app, that former partners described volatile behavior. And it was at that point that I began to lose faith in Plattner's ability to win this race, because he denied. He stopped coming out and saying, let me tell my side of the story. This is a he said, she said, so I need to say my part, and that involves taking a little bit of blame. Instead, his campaign emphasized one former partner's history in Republican politics. They attacked the credibility of people bringing the story forward, including an ex-campaign manager. He blamed his former staff, he blamed his former girlfriends, and when he ended his campaign, he blamed the Democratic establishment and the corporate media that, in his telling, had made itself into judge, jury, and executioner. And it was at that moment that the outsider disappeared. The truth teller hid in the bunker. The facade revealed as hollow. He wasn't a working class guy. He was just another rich kid who failed. He was just a dude who could explain everyone else's role in his downfall, except his own. Now, if you have a bond with an audience, politics will forgive almost anything if voters believe you, and if they believe that you're telling the truth. But voters hate being made into suckers. Authenticity is not a beard, a boat, a tattoo, a combat record, and the right regional accent. Authenticity is honesty. It is the willingness to tell people who you are before an opposition researcher does it for you. Plattner did not merely have a checkered past. He sold that checkered past as already confessed, already processed, and already redeemed. And then, each time another piece of evidence emerged, the campaign insisted that the real villain was the person holding the flashlight. By the end of it, Plattner placed the Maine electorate, the media, the former staff, and the former partners in the same role, the cleanup crew. They were left with the gigantic mess. At the center of it, a charismatic man baby who still won't take any blame. Plattner 2026's official cause of death in the eyes of the Campaign Undertaker is not the tattoo. It's not the Reddit post. It's not even any of the allegations. It's terminal inauthenticity, complicated by a catastrophic refusal to accept responsibility then or now. Kai John Dong still looks beautiful from far enough away. And so did the Graham Plattner campaign. And with that, we have officially announced that Plattner for Senate 2026 can rest in peace. This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. It's where you get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. Donald Trump says he is close to deciding whether to launch a massive attack on Iran as the U.S. military expands its 12-day campaign aimed at stopping attacks on commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The Pentagon used a B-1 bomber Tuesday against Revolutionary Guard targets, its first B-1 mission since the fighting resumed, while Iran continues attacks on U.S. bases and shipping. Trump says Tehran wants negotiations. He said that at a campaign rally in Georgia on Wednesday, but has not accepted, this is the White House, has not accepted any of the Iranian proposals. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the House voted 214 to 208 to demand an end to hostilities. The Senate rejected a similar measure, 47 to 49. Oil, meanwhile, is currently in the high 80s. It briefly climbed over $100 a barrel, but there's a lot of signs, including air traffic and Israel making notes that they're opening up bomb shelters. Hospitals are getting specific instructions. There's some skirmishes on the Iran-Iraq border that might suggest that American special forces would get involved. There's a lot of signs that something is about to happen there. Trump has said Israel would join back into the fight quickly if asked, but claimed that the United States could act alone. The B-1 was launched from Britain and can carry 2,000-pound bombs or dozens of cruise missiles. CENTCOM said Tuesday's strike against Iranian military operation centers, maritime capabilities, aircraft hangars, drone storage, and logistics infrastructure was on the list. Meanwhile, Iran continues attacking U.S. bases in the region and retains some ability to threaten shipping, despite officials saying that its military capability around Hormuz has been sharply degraded. On the other side of Saudi Arabia, Houthis have been attacking a Saudi shipping line and threatening a second critical energy route through the Red Sea in the Bab el-Mandeb, which I always am scared to mention because it sounds like Liz and Al Gaib to me. All right, so I think that this is on and popping, and here I think about it. I think that it is for a few different reasons. Number one, either there is some kind of détente, at which point Trump kicks this can past the midterms, which we thought the memorandum of understanding was going to do. That was not the case. Or you've got to extract a pound of flesh from Iran. You've got to call their bluff and say, look, whatever you think you can do, go ahead and do it. I don't think that there's any coincidences in the Middle East. It's a very transactional region. I don't think that the Saudi Arabians getting a nuclear deal, which Trump said was contingent on the Abraham Accords, which is kind of a crazy thing. We'll see whether or not Saudi Arabia agrees with that. But my 360 view about Iran was always predicated on the idea that both the region and the United States are looking to reshape the Middle East, specifically around the idea of Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Israel being the new powers in the region and the United States pivoting to China. But if you're gonna do it, you gotta really degrade Iran. I don't know how you do it. I don't know what you can do. It certainly seems that the Trump administration believes that taking out bridges and power plants are the thing that the IRGC really, really, really doesn't want. But, among the more audacious military plans that we have on the docket are like storming a area where we believe they have nuclear material and taking it by force. I have not read a lot of positive reviews of that plan. Seizing the coastline where Iran is firing drones and missiles from, and therefore ensuring that the Strait of Hormuz is open. Or seizing Karg Island, where Iran exports all of their oil. I don't know that Iran is able to function without the kind of money that they get from oil. But also, it's very hard to follow this story because you don't really know. I mean, like, I didn't know why oil was staying as low as it was before, why it was falling before the memorandum of understanding, and now it is, like, shooting up. But at the same time, if it goes way up, like, how fast can it fall? I don't know. I have no idea, but it looks like something is about to pop. In fact, it might already be going on by the time that you listen to this. The House of Representatives passed the Stop Insider Trading Act 232 to 198 on Wednesday, the first full chamber vote to restrict lawmakers' stock trading. The bill would bar members of Congress, spouses, and dependent children from buying individual stocks while allowing them to keep existing holdings and sell after given 7 to 14 days' notice. Violations could trigger a fee of at least $2,000 or 10% of the transaction plus gains. The measure exempts diversified funds and trusts. So you can put it in an index fund, but individual stocks, no. Democrats objected because Republicans added a voter photo ID requirement and excluded the president and the vice president from the stock trading. Its prospects in the Senate do remain uncertain before the midterm recess. Spoiler alert, I don't think it's going to get voted on because it can't clear 60 votes in the Senate with the voter ID thing on it. At least I don't think that it can. Some Democrats did join the Republican majority, but the voter ID provision caused much of the bipartisan coalition that initially existed to erode. Stock trading is a bipartisan issue. People don't like it. Voters don't like it. And in case you were wondering, Nancy Pelosi voted no. And finally, 2 new national polls show Democrats opening a big ol' midterm advantage. Fox News found registered voters backing Democratic candidates in their House District 53 to 46. That is the highest support either party has received in Fox's generic ballot since 1996. Meanwhile, Emerson College found voters favoring Democrats 53 to 42, an 11-point lead. Women drove Emerson's support, pushing Democrats by 27 points, while men split more closely. Fox found Democrats leading 59-41 in counties where the 2024 presidential vote was within 10 points. The caution that national votes do not evenly transfer into seats where the district lines and geographic concentration matter, but the generic ballot is a bellwether for a reason. We spent a whole time talking with Michael Cohen about it earlier this week, and now the facts on the ground have changed, and these were not small surveys. Fox interviewed 1,003 registered voters between July 17th and July 20th, while Emerson surveyed 1,100 voters on July 19th to the 20th. I think it is notable that all of this was interviewed after the bombing in Iran began again and the price of gasoline started going up. It is worth noting that Fox has consistently shown a Democratic lead. They had it at 5 points in April. That is growing to 7 points here in July. Fox also found that 68% of Democrats are excited to vote and 57% of Republicans. So that's a pretty big Democratic advantage in that key metric. Now, here's a little bit of a turd in the punch bowl here, at least with the Emerson poll. Emerson found that threats to democracy was the number one issue on voters' mind, overtaking the economy 28% to 27%. That, to me, would show that they have probably oversampled Democrats, because I don't really believe if you were to poll everybody in America that threats to democracy would be over the economy. That would be contrary to most polls ever. But still, Worth mentioning. If you're like, I don't know, they're oversampling Democrats. They might well be, because that would be a sign in that direction. Still, the two surveys used different electorates. Fox had registered voters and Emerson had likely voters, meaning that I do think there is enough to say that post-Iran rebombing, post-gas prices going up, Dems are back in the driver's seat for the House at the very least. If it stayed there, if it stayed in that position, ooh, baby, I think it's going to be a good night for the Democrats in November. And that's your update. TakePoliticsSeriously.com, where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes of this show. And now, Josh Jennings. I have been particularly vexed over the last few weeks with the right-wing ecosystem online, and I wanted to bring in somebody who by trade and practice has to live within it. The one, the only Josh Jennings, by popular demand, returns to the program. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Justin. Thanks for having me on.
What happened with this Odyssey thing? What happened with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey online? I'm also going to say, don't worry about spoilers. I cannot spoil the movie for a book that came out a cajillion years ago because
Right.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it tomorrow. Or rather, when this comes out, I will have seen it on Thursday. In fact,
Right.
I will have seen it, but I won't be able to talk about it because anyway, I haven't seen it, so don't worry about spoilers.
Yeah.
But I know enough about it, and I know enough about the reaction to know that one of the most ridiculous right-wing outrage cycles I have ever seen in my entire life popped up, and it appears to have been entirely fruitless.
Yeah. So it's funny that you say that. I also have not seen it yet, although I probably will have by the time this comes out also. But my understanding is that everybody who has seen it, everybody who was either enraged about it or ready to be enraged about it, who went and saw it, at least, again, limited experience here, they're like, oh no, it's actually a really good movie, and most of our fears were not that grounded, and it's fine. From what I gather, really the main thing that stuck in people's craw on the right is the Elliot Page playing a man, and
the
actually
casting,
yeah. And my private theory on that, by the way, is that for, I don't know, months and months leading up to the release of this film, everybody thought that Elliot Page was playing Achilles.
Yes.
And then it turns out it's a different character.
Not the case. Yeah.
Definitely not Achilles. and I actually think that took a giant pin to the balloon and let an awful lot of air out of it, because mostly because Achilles is a character whose name we actually know. And many of us saw Troy years ago and saw Brad Pitt in that
Pitt plays
role.
Achilles, and it was like prime beefcake Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's a large part of what was going on
was
there.
it just as simple as that it was like a casting decision where everybody had to then drive they had to moor their opinions in things to justify why that would happen without realizing, and this is where it really drove me nuts, because we're going to spend this much time. I love talking about movies. In fact, talking about movies is the reason why I'm on the internet to begin with. That's the first thing I did when I found out that there was an internet. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a place where I can talk about movies with people at all times. Like, it's the greatest, right? I love doing it. And I'm just going to say this to conservatives. You got one director that makes movies at the level of like best picture, unquestioned talent of his generation.
Right.
There's one director who makes movies with conservative themes. It's Christopher Nolan. That's
don't
it.
piss him off.
He made an entire Batman trilogy that was essentially about the one man ruining his life to bring order to the world. Like,
Yeah.
this is about as bedrock, National Review, Ronald Reagan speech, like a conservative storytelling that you can possibly come down to. Even Oppenheimer, which was about somebody who flirted with communism and eventually, had a great man story. Even it ends with the bureaucrats being the bad guy. Like, the
Right.
bureaucrats, the government is the problem. There is a singular man, and yes, he is wrought with guilt, but he is also the talent that can change the world. This is so uniquely conservative that it's like, I get it. Look, when The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe comes out from Greta Gerwig and everybody gets furious about it, I'm going to understand it, because Greta Gerwig is somebody who she is very liberal. She does want to subvert a lot of these things. That's not Nolan. And so it drove me nuts that it's like, okay, Elliot Page is Achilles. I don't think that's true. But then it's like, oh, well, Christopher Nolan's making a woke Odyssey. And it's like, what does that even mean? What are we even talking about?
I saw a fantastic meme 2 days ago that was something along the lines. I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of if conservatives are outraged about the Odyssey, the movie, wait until they find out what the real ancient Greeks were like.
Well, that's the other thing is, I think it was Ben Shapiro writing about it because he liked the movie.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, if we're going to be slavish to the original Odyssey, right? This is a polytheistic world that does not have Judeo-Christian values, the kind of stuff that is usually the things that conservatives want to see reinforced. Christopher Nolan tells the most Judeo-Christian version of this story that he can tell by subverting the polytheistic worldview that the original had, so it can have a more modern moral core that the audience can understand. And that apparently, from what I've read, is the center of his kind of conflict throughout the movie. But I just I don't know. And it makes me wonder, Elon played a huge part in this. Now, I just saw this morning, somebody was like, oh, you should give $100 million to Mel Gibson to do a super accurate version of the Odyssey. And it's like, look, as much as I would like Mel Gibson to get $100 million to do whatever he wants, it's like, sure, give him $100 million. Don't make him do the Odyssey. He's not going to want to do the Odyssey. This other guy just did the Odyssey amazing. It's going to win a jillion Oscars. It's going to make wife and I were trying to book tickets for Thursday night. The IMAX, the one that's showing the actual 70 millimeter big print, is sold out until the end of August.
That
until
does not
August
surprise me.
20th. Like, this thing is going to be in IMAXs from now until next 4th of July.
Also, this unlike his last film that came out, does not have, at least as far as I'm aware, does not have a juggernaut competing with it to the point that we now associate Oppenheimer with Barbie.
Yeah.
Like, we're not
But
getting
that,
a
I think,
Barbenheimer.
supercharged both of them. It just got people into the theaters, got people talking about the movies. It made people want to see both so they could have an opinion on both, despite the fact that they were two extraordinarily different movies.
Completely separate. Yeah. Going into the Odyssey, the only thing that I am pre-enraged about is the fact that apparently the language is updated from kind of, I mean, in the past, we've always had this conceit that if you're going to make a film about ancient peoples, they're all British. They all say mother and father. They don't say mom and dad.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to see, even though that also is ridiculous. So I'm not actually enraged about it, but I am kind of like, it's going to take me a little out of the story to hear mom and dad.
Usually in history stories, you're right. If it's like a foreign language thing, we Americans like to view history that is spoken in English through British people and then have the class divides that are clear in Britain in their
Right.
language tell the story, but we don't like it in America because
Yeah.
our class divides are like, you don't want a random person with like a thick Appalachian accent or like an inner city Detroit accent. Like that takes you
Yeah.
out. You want like a Cockney or a like Northern accent for somebody that is supposed to be poorer in the past.
Right. Right. Yeah. Jason Statham could play every one of those characters, and I'm fine with it. No, and so I don't I think this was a miss in terms of like the people who really got outraged. Now I know people who had a more of a wait and see approach.
Yeah.
Obviously I worked for Glenn Beck. He was one of them. I think Ben Shapiro had a wait and see, and certainly his on the other end of seeing it, he gave it a pretty favorable review.
Yeah.
But the people who genuinely got outraged, like I kind of see this on two levels. One is we are absolutely at all times primed, and the hammer is back, and the trigger is a hair trigger for outrage. Not
Yeah.
just on the right, just in America. And so anything that can be assumed to be coming from one side at the other
Yeah.
is going to be. And so on that level, I think there's a lot of impulsiveness that just kind of guides people. Like people are just, it's an id thing. And then on the other side, or the other layer of that rather, I guess, is people. And again, this happens on both sides. I think maybe to an even degree, maybe not. Where there are genuine things that have been, kind of pushed in people's faces for years. And it is like, if let's say for the moment that this was everything that the people who got outraged feared it was going to be. Like, it was very,
And it was a tremendous departure from everything Christopher Nolan has ever done. And
yes,
randomly, because by the way, that would be the bigger story for me. The bigger
Right.
story would be Christopher Nolan is going to make a movie unlike he's ever made in his entire life. Like, where he has made movies about largely conservative themes where men, almost exclusively men, with
Right.
female characters that are well drawn, but certainly ancillary players, are talking about, complicated men are sacrificing themselves for war, crime,
Right.
magic, remembering, like whatever the stakes are, that it's a man that's doing it, and then there is maybe a tricksy woman, maybe a supportive woman on the side. If it was something other than that, and for whatever reason, Christopher Nolan in his accent was just like, I do think that the woke agenda needs to be applied, that would be shocking to me. But yes, okay, let's say it were that.
He had his road to Damascus moment, and or the Hollywood woke elite took him in the back room with the cigars and
Exactly.
said, "You're going to start making films very differently." But if it turned out that it was that, I mean, I think you would look at that and say, "Oh, gee, that's a shame," because he completely changed what he was doing. But I think it was a miss because it was people were
It would be like Greta Gerwig just directing Conan the Barbarian, just
Yeah.
finding a John Milius script and just doing it faithfully. Like, it would be shocking. It would be insane. It'd be like
I
Wes
would pay so much
Anderson
money to go see
directing
that.
Hostel. Like, it just wouldn't happen. You don't get to that level of craft and then just totally change what you
Right.
do. Like, there are ways that you can apply it, but this was never going to be that because it is the epic of all epics. And it is
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan, the guy who's like, oh, I'm going to crash 15 cars and film it backwards so I can, do X, Y, and Z. I want to do that, but on the high seas with these, kind of things. I want to tell this grand epic scale. Yeah, I guess let's get into some of the kind of underpinnings of this, because
Sure.
the Elliot Page thing, nee Ellen Page. He's worked with her before, where he worked with her on Inception.
Difficult to talk this through, isn't it?
I'm just look, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do my best to
Sure.
do everything. He worked with Ellen Page is credited on Inception.
Right.
Elliot Page is now in this movie. To be totally honest with you, and I've heard, because I've been invested in this nonsense argument, I know what role he plays.
Right.
It's shockingly, like, it's brief. It's barely
Right. He's
in
on
it.
screen for 5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it is involved in a thing that kind of makes sense that a trans actor is playing it.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, I kind of like Nolan. This is a massive cast. It's a huge cast. It's like that you threw somebody that, Elliot Page is famous probably on social media more than Ellen Page was, but in terms of acting roles, you don't see Elliot Page out there. I thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was loyalty. I like, again, what are those
That was my
male conservative ethics that usually like, and this is the biggest thing for the right wing. Regardless of whether or not you were wrong, forget that. You fumbled the biggest opportunity to have a win, to go out and crow and thump your chest and say, you want to know what made $250 million in the first week? You want to know what's going to save cinemas? You want to know what's going to, bring everybody and get all these jobs, a job growing thing? It's going to win Best Picture and Matt Damon's going to win Best Actor. A conservative story about a man's dedication to his family. You don't see that anymore. It doesn't include any of this crazy postmodern yada, yada, yada. But no, too addicted to the little dopamine hits of like, is Travis Scott going to ruin the Odyssey? Like, too addicted to the clicks, you couldn't take the cultural victory.
Yeah. I agree. And I mean, I probably maybe have a little bit more sympathy. No, not much though. I was going to say I would have a little more sympathy if it wasn't so apparent that we're dealing with somebody who makes pretty conservative films in Hollywood. Like, you don't get to where he's at.
By Hollywood standards, he's Rush Limbaugh.
Exactly.
By Hollywood standards, there is nobody more conservative that is working at the level that he is working at.
Yeah. And I honestly, when I looked at it, my reaction was different. I was looking at this going, that's a lot of interesting casting choices. I really hope that they all can kind of rise to that level. Like Matt Damon, probably going to be fine, right?
Yeah.
Like great actor, able to hold it.
Movie star.
But then you get into some of the other, roles, and I forgive me, I cannot remember the name of the actress that everybody, the black actress that everybody was.
Lupita Nyong'o, who is cast as Helena Troy. That was the other big thing was, oh my God, Helena Troy's super hot and blonde, and you cast a black actress as Helena Troy, who's apparently in the movie for 11 seconds.
Right. And I mean, also, who cares? Who cares? It makes sense to me.
If it were a movie like Troy, and Helen of Troy played, if you were dealing with more of the face that launched 1,000 battleships, and she is supposed to be a smoke show because you are telling that story. Lupita Nyong'o, a beautiful woman, but not, a bombshell archetype. Right. I would understand it. That's not the story they're telling. They're not telling a story about the fall of Troy. They're telling a story about the Odyssey, which is Troy happens in the beginning, and then it's, the long way home for Odysseus.
Yes. Yeah. So what I was trying to say is when I first hearing about this film, this is forever ago. And I'm seeing the casting choices come out. I didn't know that. I didn't.
Yeah.
I'll be okay. All right. I'm going to admit something here.
Go.
I am just now reading the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Okay.
I've read portions of it in the past.
You are ahead of me. I have not read the Iliad or the Odyssey.
You're ahead of me because you knew that Helen of Troy was like not a major character in the Odyssey, and I didn't. And so
Gotcha.
all I knew of Helen of Troy is, face that lost 1,000 ships, that, gets kidnapped and taken away by Paris and all of this. So to my way of thinking at the time, I was like, oh, she's going to have a huge role. Hopefully she's good in it, because I've not followed her career. I don't know how good of an actress she is. And it wasn't just her. It was several of the choices. Robert Pattinson is one of them. Mm-hmm. Everybody's always told me, well, Robert Pattinson's an amazing actor. And I'm like, I've only seen him in the Twilight movies. You're going to have to bring receipts because I don't blame him for how terrible.
I mean, there are receipts, Josh. It's his IMDb. You can watch any of these movies at any time.
I'm a busy man. But so having only seen Robert Pattinson in the Twilight films, I was like, wait a minute, this guy's, hopefully he's good. I know he played Batman. I didn't see that version of Batman. I'm
good.
way behind on all comic movies. Yeah. Okay. Is he good?
Yeah.
I've not seen him, and I've also not seen the Ben Affleck Batman.
Well, he was playing Batman in various. They never did a straight up Batman movie with Ben Affleck. So
because he was in
playing
with Superman
Batman
or whatever.
and Justice League and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
No, the Pattinson Batman is good. If anything, the movie kind of is capped by how obviously inspired by the Nolan movies it is.
Oh yeah.
But it's imagine the tone of the Nolan Batman movies, but it's in more where Nolan is very loath to get into anything magic or kind of supernatural, especially in the Batman world. It's there's everything has a kind of explanation for it on some level. This version is a little bit, it doesn't have any magic in it, but it's a little bit more excited to kind of grow out the idea that Metropolis is this sprawling, very bizarre, different neighborhoods have different kind of fiefdoms, vibe to it. So yeah, it was good. And Pattinson's good. Pattinson was good in Tenet. I gotta say, I did not love Tenet, or I don't know if Tenet didn't love me. It's a very obtuse movie to kind of get into, because it is very committed to the bit of it plays backwards and forwards, and you have to understand what's happening if you understood the plot backwards to understand what it means going forward. So it's
is this?
It's very
I've
committed
not seen this. As I said, I've not seen it. But is this? Are we talking on the level of what was Christopher Nolan's first
Memento
breakout? Yeah, Memento. Is it kind of in a similar vein to that?
Oh, it's the supercharged. If when Christopher Nolan didn't have a budget and he shoots Memento, it's this is interesting. I got to go to the Wikipedia so I can really understand what the full plot was. Tenet is you apparently have to watch it 6 times and take a graduate level course to appreciate how brilliant it is. But there are moments where you just a guy looks to the left and somebody is going backwards into a wood chipper or something, and you're like, whoa, okay, I guess that means something. And then if you understand it from the other view, you're like, whoa, that's a crazy thing that happened. But
that excites me. That makes me want to watch that movie.
Yeah. If you're into that, go do it. And Pattinson is great in it. It's Denzel's kid and Pattinson are the two main characters. It was not my favorite Nolan. I loved Oppenheimer.
Yeah. I loved Oppenheimer. I thought the last probably 30 minutes needed shaved down, but I think I'm not alone in that.
The Nolan act? So the
Yeah.
Nolan, that Nolan has a problem where it's like the movie has this gigantic crescendo, and you're like, oh my God, best movie ever. And then it's like, I have 30 more minutes for you. And it's like, really? Because that was an amazing end to the movie.
Yeah.
I actually liked the 20 minutes of Oppenheimer because it left it on a theme that wasn't just like, what have I wrought, which was obviously
Right.
what you were walking into it understanding. Spoilers for Oppenheimer that came out 3 years ago, but like the
About a
main
man who did some stuff 100 years ago, or not 80 years ago. Um,
the main theme is not how Oppenheimer believes uh what his legacy is, which obviously he has a lot of complicated feelings, nor is it
Sure.
even really what actually happened or trying to make a judgment on it.
Right.
It's instead a judgment on how society looks at its heroes and how society builds up and tears down its heroes. And the most cynical version of society is politics.
Yeah.
And so that is why he is built up to be a god by politicians the fastest, and he is given everything he needs by politicians. But then when he becomes inconvenient, he is cut down the fastest and torn down the most brutal by politicians. And there's a
Indeed.
recurring shot or scene that they keep going back to, which is Oppenheimer talking to Einstein. And
Yeah.
it is, you finally find out
Which
in the
I
last
did
scene,
love that.
yeah, you finally find out in the last scene in the movie that it's Einstein essentially telling Oppenheimer a version of the main theme of the movie.
Right.
And then you find out also that he is about to talk to the Robert Downey Jr. politician character
Yeah.
right after, and he's going to deliver some awful news to him.
It's
But
a very, it is.
I thought that was great
One might
because
call it a conservative message. to circle back.
I mean, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what, like, maybe it's just there's just not a world where conservatives want to do legit film criticism, or like, or that there's nobody who has a voice. I guess this is where, if I were to critique the kind of big voices in the conservative world, I'm like, really, none of you bet big on Nolan. None of you were like not wait and see.
I think
not
few
wait and
did.
see, but like, no, I'm going to bet that it's awesome. I'm going to bet that all of this is overblown, and I'm going to bet that it's phenomenal. I will be seated on opening night, and I'm going to bet that it rules. Because to me, if you're a conservative commentator, that's the safest bet you could possibly take. It's safer than backing a politician. It's safer than backing a movement. The safest thing is, I think Christopher Nolan is going to make a good movie that has more conservative values than any other director that operates at his budget.
Also, if like you're just calling it the safest, I think that's a really good way to put it, because let's say you do approach it that way. Hey, it's Christopher Nolan. I trust this guy. And then you go in and it's terrible, and it's terrible for the reasons that you think it's going to be terrible.
You can be betrayed.
Exactly. You come back and you're like, oh, I can't believe we've lost another one. It makes more sense to do it that way. But and I don't think that all of the major voices, I mean, I know not all the major voices were like that. I specifically heard Glenn Beck say essentially what we're saying. Like, this would be a wild departure for Christopher Nolan to all of a sudden go crazy woke. Gonna give it a chance here. Let's see what happens. The main thing too, I think, and this is not me separating this off. This is, I think, conservative culture separating this off. I think that everything except the Elliot Page thing probably would have gotten that, or at least some degree of that, giving it a shot. Let's see what happens. The Elliot Page thing, because and I'm not passing a value judgment on this opinion one way or the other, because that would be a much longer discussion. But the short version is, I think that there's a stolen valor element to things like this in the minds of conservatives, where it's almost, you know what it is? It's the opposite side of like, saying that only a physically disabled person should be allowed to play a disabled person, or
Yeah.
well, something like that. Okay, well then there's this idea on the conservative side that's essentially the same animal, and it's like, well, only a man should play a man, like,
Yeah.
again, I don't have to get into whether or not I agree with that. That's a whole
Sure. Yeah.
long discussion. But I think that that's what you're seeing. It's this kind of stolen valor idea, and so as a result of that, I think that's what pushed people over the edge. It's certainly the thing that I've heard the most, in terms of people complaining, being pre-enraged about the film, is the Elliot Page thing. Like, I've heard very few people who complained that Helen of Troy was black. I've heard it, I've seen it.
The
but
three
me,
in order, I would agree with you. It was Elliot Page as Achilles, right? That was the Marilyn Manson had ribs removed, and Richard Gere has gerbils in his butt. Like,
right?
that was like whatever that version of just a thing that was too fun to say, so nobody wanted to not say it. It was like
Right.
Elliot Page is Achilles. That was the number one thing. And then in silver medal, it was Lupita Nyong'o was playing Helen of Troy. Helen of Troy is supposed to be hot. I don't find Lupita Nyong'o hot.
Was that the problem, that she wasn't hot? It isn't that she's black, it's that she's not hot?
Yeah, I don't find her hot within I don't find black women attractive, as
okay.
an element of it, right? From those chuds. And then the
Right.
third was Travis Scott as a somebody like a bard in
Right.
the tale, with that being the doorway to they're using too many modern words. I wanted it to be more period appropriate, which weirdly means I want it to sound like Shakespeare. Like,
Right,
nobody
yes.
really wants it to sound like
By the
Greek,
way,
or they don't want to do it in full like Aramaic, like Mel Gibson did for
yeah.
Passion of the Christ, and read subtitles. They're like, I just kind of want them to say thou and thost, because that
Right.
makes me feel like it's not right now.
Hold on, you want Shakespeare, you want a Shakespeare approach. Doesn't that mean that all of the characters and all of the women included would be played by men?
Would be played by men, which again, it's like, and whenever you're telling an old story to a modern audience. And the other thing is, and we haven't really touched on this, but Christopher Nolan is one of a vanguard of directors that finds it to be their mission in the world to save movie theaters. Like Tenet, for example, while everything else went to streaming during lockdown, but it was Tom Cruise with Top Gun and Tenet that was like, nope, we are holding this. This goes in a movie theater. That's the only place this goes. This isn't going to be like Dune. This isn't going to be like any of these other movies. We are going to put this in the movie theater. That's it, and that's all.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan, again, he sold out my local IMAX until late August. I think it's going to be in there forever. He's doing a very good job, but part of that is you got to find the audience. You can't just tell a story that is the story you exactly want to tell. You have to tell a story that the audience wants to see. This is the law of show business, is you got to find where the people that are going to come into the theaters are. And so that does mean monetization. I guess it's like, again, the thing that blows my mind is that, like, of all the people, I would almost understand it with the conservatives at any other director. Like,
Yeah.
especially when they're like, just creaming their jeans over the Yui Bowl movie where like he's just murdering random immigrants on the streets of
Yeah.
Germany or wherever. And it's like really, we're gonna give more credit to Yui Bowl than Christopher Nolan. What are we doing?
Yeah, no, there's no excuse for it. Like it's just what it really is it is the path of least resistance in terms of thinking about entertainment and about just in general. It is the thing that social media teased out of us as human beings by giving us, well, like you said, little dopamine hits for short-term accomplishment in terms of rage. And eventually what does it gain? Nothing. And by the way, what does it lose? I don't want to piss Christopher Nolan off and have him, all of a sudden go, I think the woke people are nicer. I'm gonna go listen to this.
Well, he had the best comment on it when asked whether or not he was being affected by all of the noise around the movie. He said, "I spent 10 years making Batman movies. This is nothing."
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Like, all right, you want to know what? When you have lunatics screaming that you got the cape color wrong, then this is, I'm sure he looks at it, he's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That's curious. I'm curious what they see when they see the movie. Yeah. I guess that's the other side of it that does need to be addressed is like, was this marketing? Do you cast these people so people will be mad? From what I know of Christopher Nolan, he is not that guy. Like he is not somebody who's thinking of the marketing or the rollout. He is thinking about the movie. He's thinking about the actors. He's thinking about trying to get the best thing that he can on screen. So I don't think that it was like, and if anything, this is another conservative thing is the conspiracy minded, they know, like, this is my favorite thing about conspiracies is that every conspiracy involves somebody leaving clues that only I can see.
Yeah.
Like blatant clues that this is happening, but it's only me. It's like, well, but look, if you look, he's winking and saying, and I know, but nobody else knows. Everyone else is fooled.
I don't want to go too far into this because it's still at the early stages, but I am actually writing a book about upgrading our conspiracy theories. I'm giving the top 20 conspiracy theories a facelift.
Nice. That's a dangerous book to write.
It's very, very tongue in cheek and humorous. So I think I probably won't get shot over it, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
I'll keep you in the loop on that. But I want to go back to something that we were talking about earlier when you're talking about the way that the film's made. And I think as far as what I can't see Christopher Nolan doing that, casting people specifically to outrage people.
Yeah.
In the case of Elliot Page, for instance, I suspect it's exactly what you said. He's probably friends with Elliot Page, because they've worked together before and thought, hey,
or when he was writing the script, he's like, oh, you want to know who'd be great? Who I can see in my head when I'm writing is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's two kind of main ways to tell a period piece story. One, and I'm sure that there are examples going back further than this, but the earliest I can think of is, you remember in the 90s, the Leo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, Romeo plus Juliet?
Of course. Yeah. Iconic to my generation.
Yes, and it's a mixture of.
If you were trying to interact with the hose, there was no other option but to be well versed in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet.
That's right. And it was very much basically the idea was we're going to modernize Shakespeare, and here's how we're going to do it. They're going to use Shakespearean dialogue.
Yes.
But when he says my sword, we're going to zoom in on his gun that says sword.
Yes.
And they're all going to wear modern clothing, and it's going to be set in a modern setting and all of that. And so that approach there's like I said, there's two ways to make the period piece. You make the straight up period piece, or you make the period piece that's aimed at finding a new audience and sucking them into, your love for this thing. And that's what happened with Romeo plus Juliet. Is we want to get the kids involved in Shakespeare. I don't know if that was the main goal, but that's how
it was
they
brilliant because
out.
it was marketed toward teenage girls who were reading Romeo and Juliet for the first time, and now all of a sudden,
absolutely worked because it gave
them
now
the girl from My So-Called
Life
Life and Dreamboat Leo DiCaprio are Romeo and Juliet. It's perfect casting and starred John Leguizamo as Mercutio.
It sure did.
Who also was in The Odyssey.
Yeah, and also I was in Tu Wong Fu, if we want to talk about men playing women's characters, or one gender doing the other. Yeah, John Leguizamo in Tu Wong Fu made me feel a little bit weird because he was a pretty hot woman. And now that's out there for the world. You never know what you're going to
get on the PX3 program. Josh Jennings confessing that he had strange emotions he had to confront when watching Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar with John Leguizamo specifically.
Right. Yeah. Well, because, Wesley Snipes didn't do it for me, and neither did Patrick Swayze, but John Leguizamo.
Johnny boy.
But anyway, so the thing about it is that when you make a film like that, and it seems to me like, and again, I have not seen it. I'm going to see it probably today or tomorrow. It seems like the Nolan approach is to try to do that too. We're bringing in some elements of the modern world into our storytelling of this epic, and I have no doubt that Christopher Nolan delivers on the epic period piece quality that we've come to expect from him. I am sure that that everything is going to be just amazing visually. So maybe there's an element of, rather than I'm going to make people angry intentionally, it's more like I'm going to bring in some elements from the modern world that are going to be touchstones for an audience that maybe isn't otherwise capable of sitting through 3.5 hours of just learning about the Odyssey. So it's this, to me, maybe the calling people mom and dad and the including of people that we wouldn't necessarily associate with those characters are kind of one and the same. They're both part of the same strategy of how to tell this story to as broad an audience as possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's also easy to nitpick casting choices for a movie you haven't seen when the cast is gigantic and it's very much an ensemble. So it's like, oh, I don't like the way that they cast a rapper as a guy who's going to have 4 lines. It's like, oh, all right. Like, I don't know. He sounds like he probably did fine reading his 4 lines. He's Christopher Nolan.
He's playing a bard, by the way. That makes sense to me. As long as he's not actually rapping the lines, that might be a bridge too far. But no, he's playing a bard. That's what a rapper is.
So the reason why I would be very, very shocked if Christopher Nolan sat there and said, like, how am I going to get this movie off? I know, I'll rattle the cage of Elon Musk and X. Right. Like, he knows how to make a crowd-pleasing movie. He's made crowd-pleasing movies his entire career. He's done the impossible in a vein that very, very few people have, like Spielberg and Scorsese. He's made challenging, interesting movies that are also very accessible to the wider world. It's part of the reason why I will always be an Inception defender, even when other people don't like it, because
it's one of the greatest films ever made.
You can't. It is extraordinarily difficult to explain a concept like that and make it accessible. To do something where it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you a story where it's a science fiction story where you're going into dreams, and they all have separate rules, and they all also have no rules, right? Like that's part of it is
Yeah.
that's how you get lost in it is that you don't know the rules to get out. And so
Yeah.
that's the trap. Very hard to do. It's a very, very challenging concept. And he made it into a gigantic hit. Now, granted, he had great actors and he had, Leo DiCaprio. There was a lot that kind of went into that, but still he knows how
But
to make.
also he's like the scripting of that is it's one of the few near perfect movies out there, in my opinion. And maybe you had to watch it a couple of times. I had to watch it a couple of times. Like there were things I got, but I love that. I love a movie that every time I watch it, I notice something I didn't notice before.
Yeah.
And that's one of the all-time greats. But yeah, I mean, he managed to make it. I think part of it was that it was so visually interesting because it was stuff that had never been done before, that the the knuckle draggers among the audience were like, oh, the pretty lights. And the rest of us were like, and the story.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever told this on PX3. I'm sure I've told it other places, but a friend of mine wrote the official coffee table book for Oppenheimer. And so she was in New Mexico while they were shooting. She's from New Mexico. So she made inroads and she interviewed all the actors. She interviewed Christopher Nolan. When the book was coming out, she had an event where she was going to interview Christopher Nolan on stage to promote the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I meet her. This is the first time I'm meeting her. And I'm talking about just how much I loved Oppenheimer. I'm like, oh my God, Oppenheimer. Amazing. It's so accurate. I love the fact that he kept this gigantic cast because he didn't want to combine the real scientists into one kind of amalgam scientific character, and that he cast really famous or good actors in all of the different roles. I loved how accurate he was, how period accurate he was to the Senate, to the presidency, to some of the rallies. They very much looked at, but, and this is earmuffs for kids if you're listening to this with children. If you only know a little bit about J. Robert Oppenheimer, he invented the nuclear bomb, and he's got a catchphrase. His catchphrase is, I have become death, destroyer of worlds, which he got from the Sanskrit book, right?
The Bhagavad Gita. Yeah.
Yeah. But he has a catchphrase. And at some point, he's going to say, the thing is going to say it's clobbering time. Like he's going to say his catchphrase.
Yeah.
But in the movie, he does it while having physical relations to completion with Florence Pugh's character.
Yeah. Emphasis on to completion.
To completion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was explaining to my friend, and I might have had a few pops by this point, but I was like, that's my goat. That's my goat right there. He knows that in this otherwise slavishly accurate movie that he's going to say his catchphrase and he's going to do it while he is wrapping things up from a biological perspective with Florence Pugh, and Florence Pugh is going to be on full display. That's what puts butts in seats. That's when you have all the dudes are going to tell their friend, no, you got to do it. He says his catchphrase. I'm like, that's why he's the best. That's why he's awesome. And then she's like, well, I'm going to interview him. And I'm like, if I could ask one question to Christopher Nolan about that movie, it would be, you spent a painstaking amount of time and probably a significant portion of your budget to keep things accurate to the real historical record because you cared about it. When he says his catchphrase when nutting in Florence Pugh, was that true too? So my friend finds it so funny. By the way, go get this book, J.D. Young's book about Oppenheimer. She finds that so funny that she's like, I'm going to ask his rep. Because I have to submit my questions. I'm going to ask whether or not I can ask that question. And what she was told was no. Under no circumstances can you in a public forum ask Christopher Nolan that question. But he found it pretty funny. Which is weird
because, he put it in a movie. He put it in the movie for everyone to see.
My guess is that he does find the the human element of that story so precious that he doesn't even want to make a joke about it.
I suppose, yeah.
But
I don't know, man.
But yeah,
That
but
seems
my
like
point is
question
that
number one.
if he were a different kind of director who liked to gin up controversy so people would come see his movie, if he were more P.T. Barnum, if he were more Stone Cold Steve
yeah.
Austin, then he would say things like that. He
Right.
would make a big deal. He would, if he were more like Quentin Tarantino wants to get his opinions out there because that's who he is. He, at
Right.
his heart,
Yeah.
is the guy at the movie rental place that has a million opinions on 1.5 million movies.
Boy, does he.
But Christopher Nolan's not. He is very much like, no, the work is the work. When the work is out into the world, it is now your art that you can go about and do whatever you want. But he's not that dude. So I don't believe, that's the longest way of saying that I don't believe that he would stunt cast to get attention. I don't think he
Yeah.
needs it. Of
Right.
any director doesn't need it. And number two, I don't think it's in his nature.
Yeah, it does not seem to be the Nolan style. I'll give you that. I in summation of the whole thing with Odyssey, I think this was a miss on the part of a lot of the conservative the people on the right. I hope that, and I doubt this because this just doesn't happen in general, I'd love to see a lot of people come out and after seeing the movie and say, gosh, I was wrong. I take back everything I said. Sorry, Christopher Nolan, for doubting you for a moment.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see that. And I guess you get some, I heard Ben Shapiro's review of it. I've heard Glenn. Actually, I've not heard Glenn's review of it. I missed that, but I've heard him talking about it going into it. I suspect there will be some saying, "Oh no, it's not like what you thought." But I would really like to see people go, "Hey guys, this is what it looks like when somebody's wrong and they apologize." This would be a great opportunity for that. There's a little bit of win that we can gather from this, but it's not going to happen.
I don't want to relitigate any part. This is one of the dumbest controversies that's ever happened, ever. Like, the quicker everybody forgets it, like, the better.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I want to shout out Giancarlo Sopo, who I'd love to have on the show, but he does movie reviews, I think, for National Review. He had the correct take, in my opinion, the entire time of, like, what are you guys talking about? Christopher Nolan is like that dude. He is that dude for the audience that is apparently mad about it right now. For everybody else, like, do you want conservative art? I guess that would be my question. Because if you actually want good conservative art, then enjoy it when it happens. Defend it when it happens. Promote it when it happens. Otherwise, you're just going to get Adam Carolla cartoons that aren't really as funny as they could be because they don't have the staff to do it, right? Like, you're just going to get this slop that you're going to get Jeremy Boring spending the entire Daily Wire annual budget in Toronto shooting a Merlin show. Like, and that I'm not here to dump on either of those two projects because I'm sure everybody went into it with the purest intentions, but art at that level is hard. It's very, very difficult and very expensive to do. So when it happens,
celebrate.
Like, because otherwise, I just have a question of whether or not you want it, or do you just are we just so irradiated by the fact that the art we want to like isn't exactly what we want, that we're just too wired to find the little imperfections in it Like, that's what we're wired for. We're not wired to sit back and say, wow, look at the themes they talked about. Oh my God, that's great. This is something I want to show to my kids. This is something I cannot wait until my young child is older. Or I can't wait until my older child, we can go and see it, that this is a bonding experience. This is a way to demonstrate what loyalty and dedication and awe is. Like, that's great. Because if you want that stuff, again, it's here. So I have no idea why you spent 2 months trying to sync it.
Yeah. It's a whiff for sure on the
big old
conservative side of
whiffer. All right,
big
I'm
old
glad I
whiff.
got that out of my system, and I'll actually see the movie now. Josh, you got a new a few new
neither one of us
projects.
have. Yes, I do, but neither one of us have seen this. What if the people who say it's good are lying? What if we have to come back and do another episode where we're like,
we'll do another episode. If we both hate the movie, we will come back and do it.
Terrible.
I don't suspect that we will. I think I might have quibbles with it because I've had quibbles with a lot of Nolan movies, but like, yeah,
it's gonna be awesome,
guys. What are we doing?
It's gonna be an amazing 3 hours.
What are we doing?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing because you asked me if I have any projects.
Doing,
So this, by the time that this comes out, this will be a couple of days from now.
Friday, or Thursday, yeah. Okay. So tomorrow night,
Thursday. Yeah. Okay. So I have a new book out. It is called Robert E. Lee Majestically Peeing.
Okay.
A Civil War coloring book for children you don't like. And it is a Civil War themed coloring book. Your history teachers, when they taught you about the Civil War, were completely wrong because they were also the football coach and they weren't really history teachers. I, on the other hand, I'm 42 years old and I've spent nearly 6 decades researching this book. So everything in it, I can tell you, is 100% accurate. From the South, the opening salvo of the Civil War being the South firing cannons upon the Twin Towers in New York City, all the way to a Mohawk wearing Abraham Lincoln taking up arms and participating in one of the main battles of the Civil War. So this will help teach your children about the Civil War as it really happened. No, it is very much aimed at adults. It's a humorous book. I think you'll love it. And it dropped yesterday, so it should be available. Had a little bit of an issue with Amazon. They're rejiggering it on their end to make sure that it's, I don't know, the
compliant
proportions are right or some not. No. It's just sometimes they have issues with the pages, not like the images on the pages or something are not aligned properly or whatever. They're fixing it. It should be up by the time you're hearing this. If it's not, though, you can go to my Substack and you can purchase it still because it's live on other platforms. So my Substack, just find me Josh Jennings. .substack.com. Just search Josh Jennings in Substack. You'll find me. And please pick up a copy of the book. It's a lot of fun. Of course, I've got other books too on Amazon, so look those up.
All right. Josh, thank you so much.
I always love coming on here. Anytime you want to do it, I'll come back and we'll talk about how terrible the Odyssey was.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. Big thank you to Will Saddleberg, our producer. Big thank you to Josh Jennings for joining us. Go buy his funny coloring book. It's a real good one. You want to email me? Do so. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Find, follow, and share video clips of this show. Justin R. Young on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. You can find us at Politics. I'm tinkering. There's going to be more clips coming. Your boy is tinkering with technology. If you'd like to support us with a one-time donation, you can do so. PayPal.me/payjury, PAYJURY. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App is PX3Cash. And you can send me anything you'd like in the mail. Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. You can always get our bonus content at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Any paying member gets our bonus episodes. Those are on Sunday afternoon and Wednesday night for Monday and Thursday, respectively. It's good. People swear by it. I'm telling you. Cheapest way to do that, by the way, is at the $99 annual tier. I mean, we're basically giving you these things away at that price. It is so cheap when you break it down by episode. But again, you're dropping like right into the 2028 presidential race if you subscribe annually right now. Great time to do it. Phenomenal time to do it right now. But if you want to get your name read on the show, only one place to do that, and that is the foundational tier, including these folks: L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, oh yeah, it's Adam, Neil, AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will, The Borge B, Matthew, Matt, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Devon, Paul, a dog named Checkers, Gloria Young, my mother, Trucker, John, Berkeley Steven, and Zombie Doc. You want your name read on the show? Easy. Head on over there, foundational tier. I hope everybody has a great weekend. We're coming up on the end of summer vacation. People starting to think about back to school. Football teams are reporting to training camp. I'm just saying, take stock. Think about it. It's hot as hell. Go jump in a cold body of water, pool, ocean, lake, whatever you have. Crack open a cold one and just, prepare yourself. Because I'm going to tell you what, fall's going to be here sooner than you think. And that means midterms are here. We're going to be going head down, baby. It's going to be awesome. But till next time, this is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying, some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, still more discuss politics, but this is the only one that dares discuss. Hole 3.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.